Hi everybody, welcome to Talking Cars with Consumer Reports. I'm Tom Muchler.
I'm Gabe Shenhar.
And I'm Jake Fisher.
Everybody loves a bargain, and everyone loves a story about orphans. Little Orphan Annie.
Where are you going with this?
Where I'm going with this? Well, there are a lot of car brands that became orphans. They don't make them anymore. And we got a question from a reader asking if those cars are a good deal. Can you talk about the practical risks, if any, of buying a used model from one of the several brands that died? Pontiac, Saab, Mercury. Though there were lots of duds in those lineups, there were also some overlooked gems, maybe a Saab Aero, a 92X Aero, Milan Hybrid, and they could be used bargains if they aren't overshadowed by parts warranty pitfalls. Are there used orphan bargains out there?
Well, it depends on which ones you're looking at. I mean, when it comes to something like Saab, where they've really...
The 92X is basically a Subaru Impreza, so that's just buy a Subaru Impreza.
Well, I mean, you know, but he has a point. If you can save money, maybe I do buy it.
Well, here's the thing. It's like a lot of them, they're orphans because the cars really weren't that good and they weren't really that sought after. So first of all, think about something about why this car is an orphan to begin with. But there are vehicles, so say you wanted a Ford Fusion, there's a Mercury Milan, you're going to get some of the parts for it anyway because Ford is still going to have those things, and you might be able to get that cheaper. So it might be worthwhile. But generally, these cars really aren't great choices. We were talking about this before, but there are some vehicles there that are really, well...
Yeah, the only car that's worth looking at for is the Pontiac G8, because that was a really hidden gem. It was available for 1 or 2 years. I mean, it felt like 5 seconds. It was on the market, then it was gone.
See, here's the thing.
It's made by the Australian arm of GM. It was a real combination of a well-honed European sports sedan with a real American muscle for power.
See, I made the mistake of actually doing research on this before filming the show.
That's just crazy.
I promise not to do it again. A G8 GXP, which is the one to have with the stick shift, that's $35,000. Those cars have stopped depreciating. A Milan over a Fusion, I mean, you'll be able to get parts from Milan. You know, the company's still in business. You know, they just decided to end that dealership arm. A Milan only saves you $600 over a Fusion. So,
I was amazed how many G8s I saw in Texas.
Well, it's a great Texas
it's a
car.
Great
it's
Texas
a great
car,
highway cruiser, and it's fast.
Yeah,
Outrun
and
the cops.
You don't care about all-wheel drive because
no,
it's snow.
Rear drive. A Saab 92X saves you a lot of money over an Impreza. You save about $2,000. I think the danger, though, and you touched on it, is that sometimes there's reasons, and you have to be really choosy of what you get. Saab is probably the biggest danger. I mean, if you buy a first-generation 9.5, they made the same thing for about 50 years. You know, it was out there forever. So there's parts out there, but some of the later
expensive
stuff,
parts.
I mean, there's plenty of parts out there for a 9.5, a first-generation 9.5 or a 9.3. But the new 9.5, you know, that car, they only made 11,000 of them, and they couldn't give them away when they were new. Mm-hmm. And then the 9.4X, which was a crossover based on the Cadillac SRX, they made less than 500 of those.
Oh, that's a collector's item. Buy it.
There you go. That's right. You should buy it.
Don't drive it.
Yeah. Because you don't want to have to. You don't want to have to replace.
That's going to be a problem.
That's going to be a problem. I think probably, to me, the safest orphan pick would be like a Pontiac Vibe. You know, Vibe's going to save you about $1,000 over a Matrix. The parts are out there. It's very practical.
Mm-hmm. Well, and honestly, the older the cars are, the more it's not an issue at all. Because when you're looking at an older car anyway, you know, the parts are going to be parts from salvage yards. The parts are going to be from aftermarket. It's not going to be from the factory anymore. It's going to be, so an older Saab, you're going to get the parts for that.
And you're not that worried about resale. I mean, there's something to remember that if something's a bargain, I know people love to be contrarian and they love, you know, to find the hidden bargain.
If you're going to hold on to that car, that orphan car, forever until it dies, it's not an issue.
Yeah, I mean, there's the thing. There's a reason why things aren't worth as much on the market, you know, and if you hold on to it and you don't have to resell it, fine.
Right.
If you expect to turn it over in 3 years, you might want to go with the more conventional choice. Our next question. I have a question on the Volkswagen Passat. I own an 09 Jetta and an 11 Tiguan and love them. In 2012, I drove a Passat SE with the 5-cylinder. I got disappointed because it felt more like a Camry. I'm wondering if you suggest the ones with a 1.8-liter turbo or the 3.6 V6 drive more like a German car are supposed to. We have a bit of an answer. I mean, the Passat with the 1.8 is just starting to come out. But we have a Jetta.
We have a Jetta with a 1.8-liter turbo. It replaced the old 2.5 5-cylinder, and I'd say it transforms the car. I mean, it's powerful, it's smooth, it's very pleasant.
Well, I mean, just to go back to his question, and I totally agree, that 1.8 turbo is light years ahead of that 2.5, and I think literally like 20 years ahead of it in terms of development. But the issue that he has with the Passat may not be so much about the powertrain. I mean, what makes that Passat feel like a Camry is really that the car is designed after a Camry, quite honestly. It's not the powertrain. The Camry's got great slick powertrains.
As you probably know, the current Passat is made in Tennessee. It's designed particularly for the American market. It's designed to go after the mainstream family sedans, Camry, Altima, Accord, and it's priced accordingly. So there's no surprise there. If you really want to drive something with a more Germanic character, it would be a Jetta GLI.
You know, the thing is that the Jetta, you talk about transformation. The Jetta had more room for the transformation because most Jettas had, a beam rear axle. They had kind of lackluster steering feel. I mean, they went through this car, and they all now have independent rear. They've changed the steering. It's got the 1.8 turbo. That's, to me, there's more likelihood for transformation than there is for the Passat with the 1.8. I mean, maybe they went through it, and maybe they're going to go through it and change the settings, but I don't know.
But the point about the Passat, and as Gabe says, I mean, if you're looking for this, European-feeling car, make no mistake, the Passat, they don't sell that in Europe.
Right.
This is a car that's designed for our market. They also sell it in China. They don't sell it in Europe. This is not a European car. It's not designed to drive like a European car. It's roomy. It does a lot of things that are good. But if you're looking for something like that, maybe you want something. Maybe you want something like a Ford Fusion.
You want a Ford Fusion, actually. A Ford Fusion drives more.
Ford Fusion, that 2-liter titanium. I mean, that's a wonderful car, and
it's very Audi-like.
It's very Audi-like. It's very much. It reminds me very much of the old Passat.
Absolutely.
I mean, a Buick Regal is a very German driving car. I mean, it was built in Germany.
Right. Opel Insignia.
Yeah.
Right.
So a Passat might not be your best choice.
I find myself going to our Fusion Titanium that we still have here when there's nothing else to drive.
I just drove it last night.
I enjoy driving it.
My Ford Touch wouldn't work for me. I couldn't pair my phone and all these things, but it's almost. But
you still enjoy driving.
I still enjoyed. I put the phone down and I drove and enjoyed it.
Yep. Behind us we have two very similar looking cars and very similar in aim. These both happen to be silver. Both 1.8 liter, both 4-door. We also have a 2014 Corolla behind us. And that car, it became such a grandma car. It was so dated, so old. But the new car.
It's very promising. I mean, it's finally, there's a Corolla that's, a little interesting to look at, a little more interesting to drive.
Yeah.
Well, it was an easy bar to make it more interesting to look at.
And it's one of the roomiest in the class. I mean, it rides well. It's pretty quiet. I mean, I think it's right on target.
Yeah, and it's interesting inside. I mean, before I was kind of like this really, hose it out interior. I mean, it was really bargain basement.
It was so bland.
And it's got some style to it. I mean, the radio actually, it's got a nice touchscreen that actually works and is logical, which is something that Toyota hasn't done for a while. Toyota's done some weird things lately. They seem to get their mojo back with this, where that's actually,
it's intuitive. It's easy
intuitive,
to use. Yeah. The car's also a great deal. I mean, ours happens to have a sunroof, but if you skip the sunroof, our test car's under $20,000, and this is a roomy, well-equipped. You get automatic climate control when you get in LA.
Alloys. Climate control.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of car for the money. Right. It's like they're going straight after the Koreans. And so, we saying they can compete.
It would be really interesting. We haven't done the fuel economy yet, but it would be very interesting to see what happens because the old car would have had a 2-speed automatic or something, and it had a 4-speed automatic. We got 32 miles per gallon overall, which is right about the top we've seen in small cars, and. Now they're putting the CVT in, and this CVT is a nice. We were talking about before. CVTs can be very annoying.
Right.
A lot of times they go high RPM. You hear all the time.
They have their quirks. Not good ones usually.
They're good when you don't notice them.
Yes.
They're good when you can't tell it's a CVT.
They're like children.
Yeah, but this one's more palatable than other
This is a good kid.
CVTs.
It is. I mean, a lot of people drive this car and not realize it's a CVT. Same thing that we said about the Accord, and it just seems normal. It does really good in terms of, in terms of the spread of the gears. This is a problem with the, a lot of times we see multi-speed automatics trying to get a big spread of the gears. So when you're on the highway, the thing's not revving at 4,000 RPM. This thing, you're cruising on the highway, it's like barely putting out 2,000.
1,500 RPM?
It's like 1,500
Yeah.
RPM. I mean, that, a long highway cruise, this thing's going to do really well, I think.
Well, there's the thing. If the CVT gives you another 2 or 3 miles per gallon over the 32, we'll find out. But I mean, that's knocking on diesel's door.
Sure.
That's really impressive, and you're not paying for the fuel premium.
Right.
So we'll see. But first, that Corolla, not exciting, but it looks very promising. Next question. What are your thoughts on Lincoln replacing the town car with the MKT? Do Ford and GM have any real viable plans to manufacture sedans to fill the vacuum caused by the demise of the town car and the DeVille DTS? What are your thoughts concerning the niche of that market for the big three? You used to like the DTS.
Oh my God, you're embarrassing me now.
I think GM and Ford left that niche, and the vacuum is getting filled by the Chrysler 300.
I mean, but that.
I've seen some of those stretch 300s.
Yeah, they have a
Sure.
stretch one for the livery market.
Yeah.
But I mean, that implies that the car had to be rear drive to fill that market. I mean, the thing we liked about the DTS, I also liked it too, is that it gave you the quiet and the comfort of a Lexus LS for half the price. It wasn't a great drive.
Well, the XTS.
Yeah, they still have the XTS, but they made that, they're trying to make that sort of sporty. I think the Impala does this. I think the Impala handles better, but you're not giving
It's
up
too
the ride.
good to cut in the middle and build an extension.
Well, that implies, I mean, the question can go either way. I mean, is it a question of do livery people like the car or do paying customers like the car? I think a lot of town car or Grand Marquis buyers could be happy in an Impala or a Chrysler 300.
It's true. I mean, you could also make the argument they'd be happy with a Camry.
Yeah.
Or an Avalon or whatnot.
Well, the rides got stiff in the Avalon, so maybe not. But I mean, the livery market's an interesting thing. There's a whole economy built around those livery town cars. I mean, you break it at 2 in the morning, you can find in some back alley in Manhattan a place that has all the town car parts and can fix your town car and get you back out on the road. That's not going to happen with
You could fix them with a hammer.
That's right. you can. I mean, and they take a beating, but you can't do that with an MKT.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you really want to look at that market, I mean, part of the reason why there was the vehicles like that is they're cheap vehicles. They've been producing them forever. They're all paid off. I mean, if you really wanted to go after that market, it's got to be a hybrid, in my opinion. I mean, you need something that's going to be able to shut off when you stop the car. I mean, that's what they need. I mean, you see all these. I mean, how many of these cars you see, idling around New York City?
Yep.
It's nuts.
No, whenever I go into the city, if I get a cab driver with an Escape hybrid, they always, or a Camry hybrid,
They're always happy.
They're always happy.
They are.
And I think they're happy because it saves them money on gas.
It's unbelievable every time. I mean, you've talked to a taxi driver in New York City, they're like, yeah, I get about 35 miles per gallon. Oh, what'd you have before? Well, I had a,
Crown Vic.
Crown Vic, and I got
getting
8 miles per
exactly,
gallon.
yep.
And it's in their pocket.
And that's the one thing Ford says. I did ask Ford, how are you doing with the MKT? And they say, Ford's going to be positive. They're going to put a positive spin on this. But they do like that an MKT gets better fuel economy than a town car. But that's not a big.
No.
It's not a big draw.
Yeah, I don't think the MKT has a whole lot of life in it.
I'm the only one in the staff that liked the MKT. It's a funny.
Pretty much.
Yeah, that's me. It's a funny looking thing. Ours had brown leather.
Still
seats.
hold it against you.
Thanks.
It had a nice interior.
It did. It has a nice interior. The EcoBoost engine's fast. It was good for towing my trailer. It's an odd car to be in this market.
Yeah.
Next question. I noted that the Subaru BRZ is being used for the tire test. Should a vehicle with more torque be used for testing the summer sporty tires?
It's really got nothing to do with torque. I mean, when you're testing grip, cornering grip, braking, steering.
Maybe they're talking about the burnout test that we do, where we just kind of drop the clutch and
I
see how
love
many minutes it takes.
I love the burnout test.
No, I mean
It's not a test of shredding tires. It's a test of tires.
You know, the BRZ and the FRS have this internet reputation of being absolutely torqueless wonders, that they can't climb a hill. You know, I mean, it's nuts. No, there's plenty of it.
We've never had any problems spinning the tires in those cars.
Oh, you haven't, had you?
Never had problems with that. So
We have no problem finding the gas pedal on these cars.
Yeah, it's working out as a pretty good tire testing platform. So, yeah. Next question. I'm wondering if you're going to review the Audi Q5 TDI. I hope the answer is yes.
Well, the TDI that we're doing is the A7.
Which pleases me very much. That car is...
That's a car that you're not alone in liking.
Oh, that's right. Oh, it also has a brown leather interior, like the MKT.
I mean, to drive
The only
a car...
time the A7 and the MKT will ever be used in the same
There's
sense.
a lot of things in common. Okay. Well,
I mean, a car like that, that's so stylish and drives so nicely with such a gorgeous interior, and yet, what are we getting, 30 miles per gallon with it?
Yeah,
I mean,
over
that's
30.
like what you get with Honda Fit. That's pretty commendable.
I mean, it's $71,000.
Yeah.
But it's a wonderful car. But no, we probably won't be getting a Q5 TDI. I think that's going to be our exposure to this engine, at least for now. One other question. When CR buys a vehicle for testing, does the car maker know which car CR gets? Or do you go to a car dealer and pick one up?
Well, eventually they might know, but not during the time of the purchase.
Right.
Yeah,
They don't
we
know who
buy
we
all
are.
the cars anonymously.
Yep, they don't know who we are when we go in there.
Right.
We send many different people in there. We try to rotate it so we're not same person going to the same dealership twice. Fortunately, there's a lot of turnover at dealerships too.
Yeah.
So,
And there's a lot of dealerships.
and there's a lot of dealerships. So,
I keep track.
unfortunately, we tick them off at the very end when we have to change the paperwork at the last moment. But
Yeah.
Yeah, we keep it anonymous until the moment that we get the car, so they don't know.
I remember years ago buying a Toyota, and all of a sudden I saw a salesperson who knew me from previously, and immediately I grabbed a bunch of brochures and I hid myself. So
I didn't know this job. I didn't know this job could be so dangerous. Oh, Gabe.
it's one of the dangers.
glad you're okay.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Concerned.
had to
Also, you know, most of our test cars are pretty good, but it's obvious also sometimes they don't know that we're getting the cars. You know, we're not getting perfect cars. We're not getting prepped cars.
Yep.
So that's going to wrap it up for this episode. As always, thank you so much for watching.